Over the course of his presidency, George Bush ordered approximately 45 to 50 drone strikes in Pakistan. In the first term of his presidency, Obama ordered in the region of 300. The number of strikes and the complexity of the drones, as you can see here behind me, is increasing. Boeing is currently working on an unmanned aerial vehicle or drone which will, they intend, stay in the air for up to 5 years. And in case you think this is just an American problem, from the UK's perspective, the UK has just recently doubled its fleet of drones from 5 to 10. Now, there are no end of ethical issues that we could talk about with drones and drones killing people and the use of drones and so on. Clearly, with just 5 minutes, what I want to do is focus very narrowly on 3 issues for ethical discussion. And even then, I'm really just going to introduce the arguments and not talk about them in any depth. So the 3 arguments I want to look at is firstly the number of deaths caused by drones, secondly the likeness between drones and computer games, and thirdly what I want to call moral coldness. So if we focus first on the number of civilian deaths, this is something which is raised a lot, that clearly drone strikes do kill people, and they often kill civilians, women, children, old men, people who are in no way fighting. And this is clearly a bad thing, it's something which we don't want to happen. However, the comparison is typically made between there being no war and there being a drone killing civilians. The comparison which isn't made, quite typically, is between soldiers going in on the ground and a drone flying overhead and shooting people. That is, if a ground war were to take place, would there actually be more civilian deaths than there would by a drone? It's not as if soldiers don't go postal, as is often the term, of going out and killing civilians, just as much as drones do. So that's perhaps a challenge to that particular one, and unfortunately the statistics available just aren't reliable. We have enough difficulty finding statistics for civilian casualties in conventional wars, let alone contrasting it with casualties from drone strikes. So that's the first argument, looking at civilian deaths. The second one is looking at the comparison between flying a drone and operating a computer game or playing a computer game. Now certainly there is a comparison between the two of them, and if you ever see what it looks like from a drone operator's perspective, so he has a computer screen in front of him, he has a joystick, and operates the drone accordingly. However, I think again there are some perhaps this is an oversimplification. Maybe we should actually be saying that it's not that flying the drone looks like a computer game, but playing a computer game is rather like flying a drone. And that's deliberate, because people who buy computer games want to have games that accurately reflect the sort of world in which they want to play at inhabiting. So first-person shooter games enable you to walk around as if you were behind a gun. And in fact, the British Army recently used that for a recruiting advert, having a genuine camera on somebody's genuine gun, but making it look as if you were playing a computer game while you were watching the video. And so there is this likeness issue going on there. I think the second thing compared with that, though, or brought up in this, is that there is no, as yet, evidence that just because the operator is playing in this, operator is operating a drone in this sort of likeness of a computer game environment, that doesn't mean that in the operator's mind he thinks that he is playing a game. It doesn't mean that it follows, therefore, that the people on the ground aren't real to that operator. He might just as likely think that they are real as if he were flying an aeroplane and dropping bombs from an aeroplane, or holding a gun and shooting somebody at long range. Each of those is equally as likely. So just because there is a similarity between flying the drone and playing a computer game doesn't mean that the operator sees it as playing a game. Certainly if he did, we would have some major issues. But that's something which, again, empirically, we would need to actually test and find out about as to how he approaches it. The third and final argument which I just want to raise is that of what I call moral coldness, or perhaps distance. And that is the fact that, I suppose, really from Agincourt, maybe even from before that, where arrows were used against people on horseback with swords, the person firing the projectile could stay away from the line of battle and benefit from that because they didn't put themselves at risk. There's an extent to which in drone warfare we're just seeing a logical conclusion to that, whereby the drone operator sits in Las Vegas and in the UK sits in Lincoln and flies this drone over Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, or wherever, and cannot be touched. Now, I think there are a couple of problems with this. Firstly is that it is seen by those on the ground as being cowardly. You're not prepared to put people out there to fight, and if you're not prepared to risk your own life for this issue, then you're a coward. It means that they lack respect, and therefore leads to real problems after any war is over in trying to establish a peace and build up a peace from that. The other problem is that I think it even raises questions on your home side as well, and that is, yes, it's fine, we're not bringing soldiers back in body bags maybe, but nonetheless, how seriously are we taking this conflict? How much do we care about this conflict if all we're doing is committing money and not lives to it? So, 3 issues which I'd like us to think about, and as I said, this is just the start of the conversation and not the end. Thank you.